Welcome back. So far we've created our if statements that ask that change the octave value from 4 to 5 to 3. We've got all that worked out. We even have the code that turns the correct button on at the correct time. Now we've got to put in the code that plays all the correct tones. So there's a few ways of doing this. The first way, which is we're not going to do, is to go grab all of these if statements. So here's all the if statements, and this is for the fourth octave, so our octave 4. Grab all of these and copy and paste them and put them inside this if where it says octave val equal 4. We could copy and paste them. I'll do it real quick and show you what it looks like. So all of those are now inside this if statement for this one. Then we could do that again for this one, which is octave 5. So I'm going to come inside here and paste it in here. And then I just need to go back and look up all the correct values for all these numbers from our chart and change them to the 5th octave frequencies. And then we can do the same thing down here. And next thing you know, we have this enormously hard to read, super long code. So let's not do that way. Let's find a smarter way of doing it. So I'm just going to undo those things. Now I'm back to where I was. So I've got my octave value of 4 here, 5 here, and 3 here. So what I'm going to do is just learn something about frequencies of piano keys. So first thing I'm going to, work with me here. First thing I'm going to notice, let me zoom in a little bit here and just go view fit. Let's go zoom in on these. So if I go from C3 right here of 130, 131-ish, and I jump up to C4, it's 260. So if you notice that going from 130 to 260 is doubling. And if we do the math carefully, we would find that 130.81, if you multiply this by 2, you get 261.63-ish. So whenever you jump up an octave, the value of the frequency doubles. If I go from C3 to C5, way up here, it's way higher. And if I do 4 times 130, I'm going to get 523.25. So 2 octave up is 4 times bigger. Twice. 2 times 2 is 4. So you're doubling it to get to 4, and then you're doubling 4 to get to 5. So that's kind of cool. The same thing is also true the other way. So if I take here and I start, I'm going to zoom over here a little bit. C3 is 130. C2 should be about half of that, which is like 65 range. Yep, there it is, 65. And if we do this by half, C3 by half, we're going to get exactly this. So as you move down an octave, you simply cut the frequency in half every time. And then half of C2 should be C1, so it should be in that 32 range, and sure enough, C1. So now instead of creating all of a whole bunch more if statements, we can actually go in there and just do a multiplier by it. And we're going to multiply bigger. So if we cut something in half, we have a weird problem with cutting in half. Sometimes when you cut in half, you get decimal numbers. And because we've declared all of our variables as int, integers, they're not going to like those decimals. So instead of cutting in half, we're going to always multiply to get where we're going. Okay, so that's that. So here's the plan. We're going to take these if statements, and we're going to convert them all from the C4s and the D4s and everything down to the 3s. So first thing we're going to do is pull up this chart. Let me zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to come here into the 3s, zoom in a little bit now, and I'm going to replace all the frequencies with C3 all the way to B3. And for me, I included all the black keys, the flats and the sharps, so I'm going to add these in as well. For you, you're just going to need to add in the C3 to B3 if you just did that. So I'm going to pause the video, do all that work. So let me show you the first one first. So C3, because this is our lowest one, I'm going to come back here to the code. I'm going to find where it says C4. I'm going to change this 4 to a 3. And I'm going to change this frequency down to 130.81, rounds to 131. So I'm going to change this 262 to 131. I'm going to go through and do all of those. In fact, because I'm going from 4 to 3, they should all be half of what number is already there. So you can do that too. You can just cut all of these in half. And if it's a 0.5, you have to round either up or down, up to you. All right, let me pause the video. You go do all that work. I'm going to go do all that work. If you've got questions, ask me. All right, so I've done all of that. I've changed all my frequencies down to the 3rd octave. Now to get to the 4th octave, I need to multiply this by 2. To get to the 5th octave, I need to multiply this value by 4 because it doubles to 3 or 4 and then doubles again to 5. So a total of 4 times bigger than this. To do that, I can copy and paste and multiply them and change all the numbers, or I can add a multiplier to it. So let's take a look at how that works. So down in here in this first key tone, I'm going to say speaker pin, it's playing a frequency of 131 for C3. And then I'm just going to do this times a variable called multiplier. I can call this whatever I want. I can call it Bob's uncle, but it wouldn't be helpful to me, so I'm going to call it multiplier because it's going to multiply by the tone. So here I'm going to double click this and Control C. And I'm going to come up here, since I just made a new variable, I'm going to create the variable, create an integer variable, control feed called multiplier, and I'm going to set it equal to start with, equal to 2. I'll explain why in just a second. So it creates a variable called multiplier and sets the value to 2. And maybe I copy and paste this comment up 1. So it creates a variable called Octave or Octave val and sets the value to 4. So that's kind of the default value of that one. All right. Because I want my octave to start out in that mid-range in 4, I need to actually, starting out, I need my multiplier. Remember the octave, the frequency for the 4th octave is twice the 3rd. So that's why I start my multiplier at 2 so that it will double the frequency and give me that 4th octave. Is that confusing enough for you? And now what I'm going to do is come through here and I'm just going to add this times multiplier. I'm going to copy and paste that to all of my frequencies in here. So if octave is set to 4, I want it to double all of these frequencies. If octave is set to 3, I want the frequencies to stay the way they are. And if it's set to 5, I want the frequencies to be 4 times bigger than what they are in here. So my multiplier is going to allow me to make it either the same value, twice as big, or 4 times as big. Okay, now we need to set the multiplier. Right now the multiplier is always set to just 2. So it's always just going to, well, let's just run it and see. Let's download it. I don't have my Arduino. Let me grab it real quick. Okay, so I've uploaded my code now, and I'm going to play some tones. So that sounds like that 4th octave still. I'm going to push my octave button. The light went from 4 to 5. But it's playing the same tones. It didn't go to a higher pitch, and that's because we haven't changed the multiplier. Right now, the multiplier is set to 2 always. We need now to go back through and change the multiplier depending on which octave we're on. So let's do that work next. Find in your code where you have the if octave val button equal high, and then find those if statements that say, if it's 3, we're going to change it to 4. So when this part of the code runs, it means that we should be in the 4th octave, which means the multiplier should be set to 2 in this case, doubling the 3rd octave. So in here, I'm going to actually put right under octave, I'm going to set multiplier equal to 2. And you might be like, why? Oh, I did not spell that correctly. Let's go take a look. That looks wrong. Yep, it should be spelled like this one, Control C. And you make sure the one down here, yep, all those are spelled that way. So I'm going to copy and paste that in instead of trying to spell it. All right, so you might be saying, well, it's already set to 2. Why would you want to set to 2 again? And that's because we may not be starting out. We may be on the 3rd or 5th octave. It's good to always set it where you're supposed to set it at. Okay, So here I'm going to do sets the multiplier to 2 times the third octave. Okay, so this multiplier is going to double our third octave and give us that. All right, so now down in this next else if, we need another one of these multiplier ones. So I'm going to copy and paste this down. But this time, our octave that we're supposed to be on is the 5th octave. And that's going to be 4 times bigger than the third. So we're going to come down here and hit enter and paste. And the multiplier is going to be a 4 instead. So if we go in this code in here, the multiplier is going to be to 4. And the tone it plays is going to be 4 times bigger than the third octave, which will be the 5th octave. What? All right. Then we come down here. We're going to add that same multiplier code. Oh, let me change it here. This would be 4 times bigger than the third. Oh, I need than in here. Sorry about that. And than in here. And we actually want, this is supposed to be the third octave. So we were on the 5th, we switched over to the third now. And so the multiplier should be actually 1 because we already have the third octave programmed in. So multiplying by 1 doesn't change the number. So this is a good way to use a multiplier but not actually do anything. Sets the multiplier to the third octave. Okay, multiplier to, let's just do sets the tones to the third octave. Awesome. So at this point when we run this, we should be getting different tones now. So I'm going to upload this to my Arduino and see how this works. If you're like, wow, this is a lot, it is a lot. It's okay if you're just trying to understand how this code sort of flows. Not that you could recreate on your own, but rather just seeing that, oh, I see, if we're currently at 4, it's going to run this code, increase the octave to 5, and set the multiplier to 4, and then all these tones down here will start playing, but 4 times bigger than what they are here. Like, that's the level of understanding I want you to be at, just kind of understand the flow of the code. Okay, so this is the 4. I'm going to put it closer to the microphone so you can hear it. My E button's not working. We'll have to look at that, why that is. Okay, now I'm going to change the octave to 5. Or this is one to 3. This one's 5. And then 4. Oop, it didn't like that. Awesome. So what we have now is we have our octave button working. So instead of just 7 keys, we've got available 21 keys to us. Great job, everyone. It's been fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it. You've got the octaves working now. The last step, if you have time, is to do the play the piano versus the song. Or we can actually program it so they can play pre-recorded songs for us. Super fun. That'll be in the next videos.